everybody. Welcome to the Game Junkie Show. I'm your host, Crystal. Please welcome today, Hour a Day Gamer. What's up, bud?
Not much. Just having a busy weekend. I'm excited to talk about this game today. This is going to be so much fun.
I'm excited to talk about the games today. And what game are we going to talk about? Please welcome Miguel and Jess from LongPlay Games and Indie Imprint. And we're going to talk about a pretty exciting indie project these guys are talking on. Welcome, you two.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. Really, it's just same toilet, different shit. But that's just like the everyday life. That's just so super excited to talk about your games for a little bit. So before we jump in, I kind of want to just break the ice for a little bit and ask you guys the tough questions. Miguel, I'm going to start with you. What is your favorite video game character of all time?
I would say my favorite video game character of all time is probably the Avatar from the Ultima series.
Oh, is there a specific reason why that character resonates with you?
Yeah, I like the concept that Richard Garriott came up with for that, which is, instead of it being a specific character that you play, it's Dirk Manley Space Marine or whatever. You are instead playing a version of you that is the ideal you for this environment.
Gotcha.
And I don't think enough games really explore that as a concept. That this isn't what would a 7.5 foot tall genetically engineered space marine do? It's what would you do confronted with this puzzle?
That's a good way to put it. Those are definitely more engaging narratives to be in. Jess, what about you? What is your favorite video game character of all time?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. I would probably go with oh god, it's very hard because I'm more of a classic game person, so I kind of get to enjoy just all of the new indie games and stuff. I guess I know this sounds weird. I guess I like the sim type thing, so I guess in a way myself, because I just kind of create a character in a simulation game like Stardew Valley or My Time at Porsche or Sims, and then go from there and I guess make those kind of decisions too. And really honestly, screw up, I don't think I've actually finished very many games totally, though I did love Jenny LeClue. Oh my god! And then I also love the kids from Costume Quest. So I guess if I have to go right now, Jenny LeClue at this point.
Right. I mean, that's an awesome pick. I did like your take on that, where you're inserting yourself in it and picking yourself in that type of environment. I think that's pretty clever. Hour, what about you? What's your favorite video? That's a really hard question, by the way. Like, that's a very hard question. I know it's so hard.
Super hard question. Super hard. Well, I think I'll probably have to go with Lilith from Borderlands, just because that's like my third favorite game of all time, and she is the one that I play with almost every playthrough. I mean, yeah, I've played with all four of the characters and, multiple playthroughs with each and everything, but Lilith is by far my favorite. And yeah, I mean, I think she's just a badass, and I mean, she's just a lot of fun to play with. So I would go with Lilith in Borderlands.
So does that mean that Tiny Tina's is all? Did you already buy?
I actually picked it up, I believe, on the Epic Store. I think maybe a chapter or something of it was free. I just usually claim the free games every week and move on because I don't have time to play them. Yeah, I did pick it up, so I do have it. I just haven't played it yet.
Speaking of time to do things, let's talk about what it means to be an indie developer. So tell us a little bit about LongPlay Games. Who are you? What inspired it? Where did you come from?
Okay, so LongPlay Games is a New Mexico-based company. We actually are an outgrowth from Indie Imprint, which was a publishing and indie author services business. And the first game that we actually did with Indie Imprint. But the problem was people were really confused, like continuously confused, when they would go look up Indie Imprint, and they'd be like, well, they do books and they do music and they do stuff. How does this relate to video games? And gamers really wanted a much more gamer-focused thing. So we created a new company specifically to handle the spin-off and the focus of it. So that's really where that came from. And the impetus really was, I had a chance to actually early retire because 2020 pretty much ended everything that I was doing. So I was like, well, while I have the chance, I might as well do the last thing on my bucket list, which was, doing game dev again after many years in the corporate trenches of development. So it was a nice opportunity to get back to doing the one thing that I actually enjoy doing.
So, do you have you made a game before, or have a background in making games, or did you just say, "I'm going to learn how to make video games"?
Oh, I've been making video games and selling video games since about 1984.
Okay, so that's something that you've always been doing, but this is your own
Exactly.
project, essentially. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I took
understood.
a brief break for about 20 years to do corporate stuff because it was much more stable paycheck. I mean, I know some people are like, "Oh, video game devs are in it for the money." No, the same skills you can apply to make probably easily six figures, and you'll never see that as an indie dev.
Nope. Yeah.
Definitely. Now, Jess Alter, by the way, who some of you may know because she's an author, and I take it you you do some of the writing and the art on the show. How did you kind of get involved in the gaming development world?
Well, actually, the big thing was I wanted to make a little game for the
For the game show.
for the game show. Miguel had gotten a game show, and being in the corporate world, Miguel couldn't make a game because that would be potentially intellectual property of the corporation. Caveat to anybody who decides to go into IT. And so, with a lot of hand holding, I wanted to make a game. I had never done that before. I mean, except just writing out the concept of it. So, with a lot of hand holding and pointing out and discussion, I was able to make a game show game called GYATM, which can I say slightly cussy words here?
Oh my God, I have a potty mouth. Every episode is me saying it, but please do.
Okay. So GYATM, Get Your Ass to Mars. We couldn't actually publish it as Get Your Ass to Mars because nobody would accept it as.
Yeah, Microsoft specifically kicked back and said, you can't have a game with the word ass in the title.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what about a description? They're like, just no ass.
I heard Microsoft's a bit on the strict side. I have a buddy that took a screenshot of Cyberpunk. Has some very sexual scenes in it. Like they show body parts, and some of the scenes are, I would definitely say mature. And he just, for fun, just clicked a screenshot that he was going to send to somebody, joking around with them, and I guess it automatically uploaded into some place on his Microsoft account, and they banned him for it. For boobies.
Wow.
Literally for boobies.
Which is weird because I thought that they had a in the.
Oh yeah, it could have been so much worse.
Yes, they have
Yeah, Cyberpunk 2077 has this whole genitalia selector, and yet they greenlit it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, it depends on who you know and what you know, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, Microsoft's a bit on the paperwork-driven side, and yeah, that was how the game ended up becoming just the acronym.
Okay.
And then we decided to actually do as our first getting our feet wet with it. We decided to do a full-blown PC version of GYATM, which was the first one we published on Steam.
Yep. Again, a lot of hand-holding.
And that one was published under Indie Imprint, though I think Steam now shows it under LongPlay Games, which is fine.
Yeah, that is, since LongPlay is a spin-off of Indie Imprint.
Indie Imprint. Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, because I wasn't super sure on that. So primarily, for the most part, it's just LongPlay Games at this point, really.
Yes.
Yeah. At this point, the editing and the writing and the small publication stuff is all still handled through Indie Imprint.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Just because of the dynamics, the indie dynamics are just so unique because it's small. Which, by the way, small. How in the hell 3 people? How in the hell are you making things look like this with 3 people? I can't even wrap my head around. How are you doing
magic fingers?
Yeah, LongPlay actually does often will do 20-hour days we do 16 to 20-hour days, which is why Long Play actually will sometimes, we have a Wednesday stream on Glimish, just to get Long Play to not be doing game dev.
Yeah, because I need to, if I don't take a break because I have to, I literally don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of hours, and some of the artwork is due to the very talented people that we have hired to work with us on stuff, and some of it's ours and some of it's contracted, and in the indie world you contract what you have to and you do the rest.
Yep.
Okay, so that's I guess if we do like to use the term normal or average, right? It's not uncommon, should I say, if you are a small indie dev team, you might bring in subcontractors or bring in piecemeal people temporarily to help you do a project.
Yeah. It's common in AAA too. I've worked as a contractor for AAA companies.
Yes.
They love to do that.
Yeah.
Especially because when they bring on a contractor, they don't have to bring on any of the expenses associated with an employee, just that specific chunk.
Less taxes to pay.
Exactly. So I've done contracts for AAAs that they simply don't even bother to credit the people who work there, let alone the contractors.
Yeah. No, it's easier to get rid of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Boom, you just dump.
But at least when you're a contractor, you know that you're going away at the end of a game, or you know that you're going away at the end of a specific piece. And there's always that. I appreciated that.
It's pretty crazy to me. One of the things I love about video games is, in my opinion, it is the ultimate form of art. Every possible art piece exists in this medium, and it's the only medium that can tell a story the way that it does.
I agree. It's interactive.
Yeah, but it's
activities. Yeah.
Oh, but it's crazy to me how expensive and stressful it is, and it's very frustrating to me that some people are so hard on devs and they review bomb for petty reasons, and I just get very frustrated with what it must feel like for developers, or like
one of my very first professional dev experiences at SRI many years ago, like 92 or 3. A game that I came out at the same time as Descent, and it was a similar enough concept because basically that game was going to happen one way or another. The technology had reached a point. The one that I had done was based off of Autodesk's technology that had come out at the time. They had just made a 3D engine in Autodesk that worked really well. I don't remember exactly what Descent was based off of, but the time had come when you could do a 3D game that would work effectively on a 486. And I obviously didn't have the marketing budget. The company that I was working for paid me a percentage, so I got almost nothing. And the thing that killed me was that was the very first time that I got reviews of all the games I had made prior to that. That was the first time I got reviews suggesting I should go kill myself. And I was like, really? What, you hate the fact that something came out against Descent so badly you think the dev should suicide? That's your alternative? It's such a industry. I've often said that there's nothing gamers hate as much as games.
Yeah, I don't even think I can argue with you. I mean, because I spend time on Twitter, so maybe before we talk about this exciting upcoming game you have, it might be interesting to get the opinions of you guys as real hardworking developers. What does it feel like if you were to see review bomb? Would you be able to go, it's just a bunch of dumbasses review bombing me? Or is that something that's really hard for you not to take personally because that is your blood, sweat, and tears?
Well, when I was a kid and I was making games and selling them at flea markets and stuff, everyone was really positive, and I appreciated that. And the negativity really came out of the mid-90s. And the way I look at it now is I try to take sort of the Madonna view of it, which is, if they're hating on me, they're talking about me.
Yep. Any publicity is good publicity. Sorry.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't care if they're review bombing, because if they're review bombing, it's going to get news. And if it's going to get news, there's going to be people who are like, well, I have to see what pissed off this guy this much, that he has 700 hours in the game, and since it's a waste of time.
Yeah, which we do have, by the way. We also have review bombs of people who've spent 5 minutes, and they're like, this isn't there, and that isn't there, and you literally can see
No, that's not a review bomb. That's just a negative. Review bombing is when you get 10,000 people together and you just tank your review on something.
See, I'm old.
Someone doesn't spend enough time on the internet. No, we've had some hilarious negative
Yeah.
reviews, but I always find the negative reviews to be as funny as the positive ones, because the only thing that we're really combating is apathy.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And that is very true. Sadly, negative attention is, I mean, if people would rather have that than not have any attention at all.
Yeah,
Sadly.
I mean, Battlefield 2042 was one of the worst games they've ever made. It sure didn't stop them from making more of them.
Oh Jesus.
Oh, shots fired. Savage
Shots fired,
Miguel.
yeah.
I like him. I like him. And he had the hustle as a kid, selling his own games in the flea
Yeah.
market. That's my kind of dude right here.
Oh
So
yeah.
let's talk about this game. Now, you'll have to educate me a bit and make sure that we educate everybody watching when everything is coming out. Smugglers of Cygnus. So let's talk about, if you look at we've got the tumbler, we've got the shirt, we've got the hat. So let's talk about this. Educate everybody. For somebody who's never heard of Smugglers of Cygnus, what kind of game is it? When can we play it? Where can we get it?
So Smugglers is a sci-fi adventure trade exploration game. It's just a real straightforward kind of, you travel around the galaxy, you deliver cargo, you fight off pirates, you engage in piracy, you upgrade your ship, you play with your friends in small collections because you can invite your own friends onto your game, but not like a big server. And you basically just enjoy the quiet of space or go shoot things. It's all entirely up to you. It's that nice, chill, modern sim style that combines a little bit of the RPG and crafting aspects with a little bit of the just exploration and not having to feel like you're driven aspect.
Yeah.
So is all of the fighting or combat based inside a ship or a flying vehicle, or can you also exit the vehicle and use any kind of weaponry or like hand combat?
The combat is entirely ship to ship.
Okay.
And there are always escape pods, and you actually get a reward for collecting the escape pods to repatriate people back home. Yeah, we are a non-violent studio, so we focus heavily on the family-friendly aspect of it. So while you are welcome to blow up a ship in all of its glorious explosionness, you also collect the people, and their governments pay to have them repatriated.
I like that idea. That's pretty
it's
cool.
great.
That we can be savage but not completely evil at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these pirates are wanted by somebody, and someone's paying for them.
So
the other thing is, oh, sorry.
No. Please continue, Jess.
The other thing was when we were first talking about building a game in the Cygnus Galaxy, which is the Cygnus Galaxy of games. We were talking about how we wanted to have something a lot like the 80s G.I. Joe. No one dies in G.I. Joe in the 80s, and that's kind of a fun feel where it's like everything is out there for shooty bang bang pew pew, and it's just like slightly different. We'd like to not have go collect.
That's kind of how Pokemon has made millions and millions, billions of dollars off never killing a Pokemon. They always faint. Pokemon only faint. You don't actually kill them. So
that is true.
There's a million violent games out there. You don't need to make another one. I mean, people got that covered.
Yep.
I was actually going to mention when you had said that. I mean, I've been playing video games since 1985 when I was 4, but some of those games were violent. So as a kid, I was playing games that, there was violence in games. You killed things. I do feel like there aren't as many. I could be wrong because I don't have kids, but I feel like a lot of games are teen or up, and there's less market and less creativity. Like kids games are primarily in the same franchise.
Right.
They're educational.
Okay.
Yeah, Lapware has really gone away as a concept, which is sad. We were really seriously considering, when we were talking about Smugglers, we were seriously considering doing a Lapware game instead, but there just doesn't seem to be a market for Lapware anymore. It's been mostly replaced by, tablet games that are mostly just adware.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So this is, I was just going to say, this is a family-friendly game that any age group can enjoy, but the appeal here is that your kids can play it, and it really doesn't have this heavy violent death aspect to
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
It's more like American Truck Simulator or Euro
Yeah.
Truck Simulator, but you still get the ability to
Right.
fight pirates and fight off pirates and whatnot, which is that nice little extra bit.
Or become one. You can become a
Or
pirate.
become one. Yes.
Ooh.
Because one of the important portions of this game is that while there are a lot of quests, we call them missions, that basically give you things that you can do, there is no story quest. There's no major storyline that you're railroaded down.
Yep.
You could spend the entire game just delivering cargo.
Yeah.
Or you could spend the entire game upgrading your ship and building a fleet and, running a transport empire. But you could also spend the whole time as a pirate just pillaging
King.
ships.
Yep, become a pirate king or a bounty hunter. We have somebody who actually we're setting up a bounty hunter kind of. It's not even a class, but there are going to be a lot more bounty hunter missions, so you can be a bounty hunter simply because that's
And bounties involve things like catching smugglers and catching pirates and things like that and turning them in.
Yep.
Okay, that's actually really cool.
So dang cool.
What are you smuggling? What kinds of goods do you smuggle?
That's the fun part about it. We've set up the way the universe is set up. Everything in there, every item has a place in origin and a place of destination, and the rules can vary on what they are. So you could buy something that's completely legitimate in Solar System 1 and go to Solar System 2 where that thing is completely illegal, and they will literally take your ship if they catch you with it.
So
even if you're passing through.
So you have to figure out ways to get things, because you can make a heck of a lot more. Think of it like Smokey and the Bandit, right? They're smuggling beer, which was legal everywhere except for the county they were smuggling it into.
Very true.
So if you lose your ship, do you have to buy another one with money you acquire in the game, or you?
Yep.
If you lose your ship, you lose your ship, and you have to start over again from.
So don't get caught.
From whatever money you've spent.
Okay. You're giving me vibes from Midnight Club LA. Do you know how mad I would get when I'd lose some pink slips in that game? Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. One of the a couple of the big influences for Smugglers were Privateer, obviously, which Privateer has influenced most modern space games, and also Endless Sky, which is sort of like a 2D version of what we're doing. It's much more it's much more oriented on the bookkeeping, I think, than what we're doing. But
I hate that.
It definitely has that chance that you have the risk and reward.
I like that a lot. I think that's really a good lesson too for younger people that play, to understand that. I like it when game has heavy consequences like that. So I think that's pretty cool. Does it have ways, are there different classes, or can you add skills or do specific builds that, can you go
there is indeed a skill build you can do.
Yes,
cool. you have a skill set that you can actually build up, and the skill set is basically areas of expertise that you can spend points on, and you gain points by completing missions, by completing jobs, by discovering things, by scanning things, and we're following very much the you use a skill to increment the skill kind of strategy.
Okay.
Exactly. So you improve your astrogation skill by doing scans and such.
And astrating.
And, plotting courses. And that astrogation skill comes in handy because you get tipped off to where pirates are going to be, and you get better at scanning, and you can scan further, and you can find precious ore that you can sell and things like that, right? You can find things to salvage. So using the skill improves the skill. And then you can also spend points that you get. If you remember how Fable's skill tree worked, it's very similar to Fable.
Oh, wow. Okay. I have to say, I'm completely getting Boba Fett vibes. I just keep, I can't, in my brain, I just keep thinking that this is I'm getting this really cool Star Wars Boba Fett kind of vibe. I don't know if that ever crossed your radar, but I keep thinking that I would feel like the Mandalorian, I think, playing the game.
That has definitely crossed our radar because one of our backers on the Patreon is a huge fan of it, and that was his specific direction. And we were like, that's something that we can accommodate, and so we have made a few adjustments specifically to make that easier.
Yep.
Wow, how cool is that? So then,
that's a great thing about indie games. They listen to people and make things cool as hell,
and they can kind of do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to go market test it. We already have somebody who's been willing to put money into it and say that they would do this, and we're like, we can make that better for you.
Fantastic. Now, you said it wasn't very story heavy. I assume, is there some story? I mean, is there a plot line and a clear beginning and an end, or how
No, there are
does
many stories.
say that again?
There are actually many stories. So what happens is you may come across, in fact, one of the characters you come across in the very beginning is voiced by the awesome Our Day Gamer right over there.
Yep.
And he actually voices a character called Bad Luck Bart. And a Bart is an AI bartender, like a robot drink slinger. And this one just happens to have extremely bad luck. But
he's got a great beard.
And he does. He has a beard. He is a big fan of beards because he noticed that all the Cygnus Pizza Race champions had beards, and while he's not sure what they're supposed to be for or what they do, he bought one. Had one 3D printed specifically for him.
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay, so for example, this character starts you off on one of the first actual storylines, which is you go and you find a friend of his who owes him a lot of money, who crashed on a planet someplace. And you go find and retrieve this player or this character.
That's interesting. So all of the stories are really centralized around the mission content, should you choose to do those.
Exactly.
But the main objective of the game doesn't have a definitive start or end point or a specific story narrative. So you can go spend as many hours as you want chasing pirates and smuggling pizza and repatriating people back home safely.
Exactly. Yeah. For example, one of the storylines that we have, you actually come into an area where a space station has just basically wandered into an asteroid belt. So you destroy a bunch of the asteroids. You bring in a whole lot of content, a whole lot of stuff, parts essentially for the space station to rebuild, construction equipment and things like that. And then as the space station finishes getting rebuilt, once they're finally done, you then get special privileges and huge discounts at that station.
That is super cool. I think I'm getting a little bit of like the Outer Worlds vibe, a little bit. And it's a little bit, yeah. It's kind of, it's like that Fallout in space sort of for a bit. How did you come up with this idea? I mean, what just went poof, Smugglers of Cygnus? What inspired this?
Well, we made a game that we wanted to play that we didn't see. I mean, believe me, I would rather be spending this time playing games rather than making them. Making games sucks. So I would much rather be playing this game, but it doesn't exist. I thought it was going to. Yeah. I've backed a number of projects that should have been this game, but they never turned out. I mean, I could fire more shots at specifics, but I put money down into a number of games that were kickstarted that should have been this game, but weren't.
Yeah. It started actually as a game. We were pre-thinking of a game called Space Truckers of the Delta V. Mm-hmm. We actually were thinking of making a
space trucking game.
Space trucking game, yeah. That was the whole point. You would sit there and you would fly around as an alien, trucker.
Because that was supposed to exist, but didn't get made.
Yeah, get made.
You've got Elite Dangerous, which was supposed to more or less do that, but that didn't. You've got No Man's Sky that was supposed to do that and then didn't. You've got Robert Space Industries' collection of whatever the hell they're working on that is supposed to do this and then didn't. And all of these turned into things that completely missed the mark that I was looking for, which was a chill way to just kind of enjoy traveling in space in a sci-fi kind of world where you didn't feel like you were constantly under the gun of either a plot wagon or having to, spend your entire time literally just mining.
Yeah.
That actually makes complete sense.
Yeah. One of the things that Miguel and our one of our sons, one of our kids did was they would actually play Grand Theft Auto, but do this kind of thing. If you would do a trick, horse. Where basically, how you play that basketball game Horse, where if you explain it, I'm not good at
so I'm not sure where she's going with this, but yeah, so we used to play Grand Theft Auto with my kids, and we would then do like a stunt or whatever. Like you'd have to jump out of the aircraft and land on a specific building, and then the other person would have to reproduce that and then do the next trick, or they would get the letter, just like horse.
And the point being is that they spent so much time not doing the main storyline. The main storyline was a thing of, I don't care about the main storyline, and that's actually a lot of that whole open world thing that we're trying to feel is, imagine having kind of like one of those really great open world games, but without a main storyline to, hold you back.
Yeah,
play it.
I guess the way I would put that is we felt like the real advantage to games like train sim or truck simulators or any of these sorts of games is that they give you a world that you can play in that's not a strictly open world where you're like, what do I even do? No Man's Sky style, where you're just like, great, okay, I found a world and an alien, who the hell cares? But you have something that you can do that will get you to the next point if you want to, but you also have the ability to more or less ignore that if you want to. And I think that's where she's going is we felt that there needed to be something like that, but sci-fi. And because space is fun. And also we wanted to avoid humans entirely because of the obvious, every game that involves humans involves human politics. And there's all this politics about what voice actors you can use for what, and what representation your characters have. And these things are important, but we didn't want to be involved in these. So we're like, you know what? A purple alien can sound like whatever the hell a purple alien sounds like.
That is very true.
We don't have to worry about this. There is actually a lot of, it's a sci-fi writer writing this. There's a lot of very deep politics in the sci-fi. But the nice thing is it's all in the sci-fi, and you don't have to engage with any of it if you don't want to.
So, Jess, is the assumption, can I make the assumption that you have written all of the questing and the story and the characters and everything?
I'm in the middle of writing it, but because
there's a lot of it.
There's a lot of it, and also part of it is I have written fiction novels before. Huge fan of path books. I love them. I had a huge collection as a kid of the choose your own path, type books, and so I guess they call them game books or whatever. I know everyone.
Choose your own adventure is definitely the best term for them because everyone knows that.
Yeah, except they get the actual publisher gets salty when you actually use that. They're like path. Sorry, Miguel just made a
rude hand gesture
at me.
That's funny.
So anyway, writing it. I'm more of an end user as a computer person, so I'm getting to really understand what's going on behind the scenes, building games and quests and stuff, and we're getting a foundation down. I've basically done most of the world building, and we have characters and stuff, so it's going to be a lot of it's character driven. A lot of it is what Unreal can and can't do. And that seems to be the biggest thing, because I'm like, can we do this kind of quest and that kind of quest? And I was like, I don't know.
Let's find out.
And a lot of that is I'm learning what the limitations are of the engine that we're using to be able to build quests that won't just crash.
Yeah, there comes a point with branching storylines that it gets beyond what it can really keep track of easily.
Yeah.
That is an interesting point, because one of the questions that I make up the questions as we go. One of the questions I was going to ask you is, how do you storyboard what you're going to do based on the game? But I never thought about that. You have to understand the limitations and the possibilities of what you can do with your technology to then storyboard your ideas around that.
Exactly, yeah, because we do a lot of branching storylines, because branching storylines are a big factor for Jess being a writer.
Yeah.
And the difficulty is making sure that the branching storylines can actually happen, which is a little bit trickier than it should be. Honestly, one of the biggest limitations is gamepads. I don't think people realize how unbelievably limiting a gamepad is as an interaction tool.
Yeah, the controllers,
you mean Xbox like the little? Do you mean like the pad in the middle, or the D pad?
The whole thing.
I mean like an Xbox controller.
the controllers,
Oh.
Xbox, PlayStation controllers.
I think the best point on this was when Lord British was doing Shroud of the Avatar, the newest one that they did. He decided that what he had wanted was he wanted a text-driven engine where you would ask the NPCs questions or make statements to the NPCs, and the NPCs would interpret these statements and then do whatever with them, right? And they ended up having to dumb that down to the point of, okay, you can click on the things and then you can build questions based off the things that you click on. And then everybody ends up eventually at the same Elder Scrolls type, you get these 3 things you can ask them about. Because while the technology on the game side exists to do amazing things, you can do voice recognition and all this great stuff, the input technology doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, are you saying it's easier to develop a game for somebody playing with a keyboard and a mouse because there's more options that you can offer them?
Vastly.
Really?
For example, imagine you're using an Xbox controller and you're supposed to ask an NPC freeform questions that you then have to pick out on a keyboard.
Yeah, very few people have the Xbox keyboard. And then on top of it, you have to have tiny enough fingers to touch to actually key that stuff in.
That's not something that you want to do. You don't want to use that little on-screen keyboard and pick out, where would I go to find the Firefall crystal that I last heard of in this other mission?
So if you're making a game that's multi-platform, right, you have to have the scalability in mind, knowing that all of the functionality is going to have to work on a console controller, basically.
Precisely. You have that lowest common denominator, and you have to focus on consoles do not have voice authentication. They do not have voice interpretation, so you can't use voice. They don't have keyboards, and they have a variety of different layouts. And then while you're there, you also have to say, look, I want to make sure that people can play this game if they have disabilities or if they have some other impairment that requires them to play a little bit differently. And so what you end up with is a pick list. And a pick list really infuriated Jess because she's like, I don't want to have just 3 options for this. I want them to be able to do all these various things that I can imagine that the player could do.
Yep.
And it's like, we can do that, but the player can't do that.
A lot of it is accessibility. It's about imagine this game being a color wheel and you kind of are moving around and you have some limitations.
Yeah, and the limitations are really determined by input technology, which is the saddest thing ever. It's the horse's ass theory of the Apollo project.
So let me ask you guys: when you started this, when you first had the idea of, hey, we're going to make Smugglers of Cygnus, did you have gamepads in mind, or did you originally go in thinking keyboard and mouse only, and then players kind of said, hey, we would like a gamepad?
See, that's a funny question, Arrow, because you know the answer to that one.
Oh, yes, you do.
I know the answer.
Right there.
I will admit I have sausage fingers, and all these buttons on the keyboard and everything, there's just too many of them. I can't keep track of them. It works much better for me to have a gamepad. So yeah, I kind of kept on like, hey, we need controller support. So
I want to add on to that, and I'm glad you asked because obviously viewers, need to know these things. I've always been a console player. I love them. It's just easier for me.
Yeah, consoles rule.
But I'm only now starting to realize the limitations that they do create in the development world. And I didn't know that making that scalability structure was so drastically different.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I love consoles because, actually, to be honest, I love anything that is designed for a single specific target because you can just design the hell out of it for that target. I made things for the Commodore 64 that obviously were tailor-made for a Commodore 64. And I made things for the Mac Plus that ran in, 512K of memory that were tailor-made for just that experience. That would look really silly if you were to watch it on a 4K television because you'd be like, are you kidding me with this? These look like crap. And true. You could do the same thing with a gamepad or a keyboard or whatever. But anything that's going to have a variety of inputs or a variety of ways of interacting with it, you have to figure out where can I scale and how can I scale and what things do I have to prune. And yeah, when it comes to certain kinds of genres, like simulations are a big one. consoles are so far behind in the simulation genre, it's not even funny. I mean, you can plug a steering wheel and a throttle pedal and a straight H gear shifter and a button box and, a control panel into your PC, and you can have the exact cockpit out of a, either a Freightliner or a Boeing 747 if you want to. But on a gamepad, you have 16 buttons.
So interesting. So does that? So your game, the only platform it's on is PC, but you've had to scale some of these things back so that you can accommodate hours, fat fingers. I mean, the ability for people to use remotes. Using remotes, though, I'm really glad you touched on accessibility. Accessibility is a really big one for me.
Yeah, it's a big one for us too. We work really hard at that.
There are so much. I feel like there are sometimes more accessibility options with controller base. Microsoft is phenomenal at accessibility options. I love my PS5, but PlayStation, you guys do, on the software side, wonderful accessibility options, but we need more hardware options out there.
Microsoft did a great bit with that new accessibility controller and the extra options they've got. And the bit that Steven Spahn was talking about recently, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. He had a bit where, because Forza allows you to have the acceleration and the steering broken out to multiple players and the multiple controllers, he was able to race in Forza for the first time in his life because a friend of his was able to drive while he was able to control the throttle. And he was just so elated by that. And it's like, that's the kind of experience that matters. Yep. So you really do have to make those efforts for color blindness, for photosensitivity, for controller use and impairment, things like that. And, while it does change how you can drive your interactions in certain kind of simulations, Train Sim being the worst possible example of it. I adore Train Sim, but their port to console is nearly unplayable because of how they tried to accommodate gamepads with it. Whereas Truck Sim does great.
Interesting.
And the thing is, you have to design these in from the beginning, or you end up where Train Simulator was.
Now, I don't know if you guys have ever played The Last of Us 2, which had incredible software side accessibility options. I mean, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I believe they won several awards for it. I mean, they took into account different types of color blindness, different types of hearing impairments. They did
fantastic. I haven't
so much on the software side. Which I think is incredible. I was actually playing a JRPG, and I know Nintendo is the worst. I mean, I don't think that's as big of a thing in Japan for development companies. And and this was in the DLC. I was 115 hours into this game and couldn't get through a palace because I have a partial color blindness and couldn't tell the difference in the colors to solve the puzzles, and they had no accessibility options.
Yeah, see, and that's one of the things I work really hard to avoid. Like, we spent the first 2 months on Smugglers of Cygnus actually designing a UI that could be recolored by the player to any color palette they wanted.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so a lot of our stuff is development is going slower because we're baking in the accessibility layer by layer by layer.
Oh yeah, I spent all of March just simply working on the gamepad accessibility on stuff that was literally already done. And I was like, oh crap, I'm trying this with the gamepad and it's not working properly. And ReadySet was like, ReadySet Indie Games was like, my gamepad doesn't work on these screens. And I was like, well, no, why would it?
I love her. I recently met her, and I love her.
Well, I need to go redo that because me being a person who does not use gamepads, I mean, I use them very rarely. I have really bad arthritis in my right hand, especially. So gamepads for me aren't terribly comfortable to hold or use. So I really don't ever use them. And I never grew up with gamepads. I grew up always as a arcade gamer originally, and then a PC gamer who used arcade type accessories, because I'm like, you use the tools that are built by the developer for what this game is going to have, right? I mean, you don't want to play Virtua Fighter on a keyboard. That would suck, right? You play Virtua Fighter with a Virtua Fighter fighting stick, right?
Yeah, we used to actually have almost full size. I mean, this is a pretty big thing. It's the size of it was the size of like a large tablet, which had the joystick and the buttons set up like you would get it on a console in a arcade.
Yeah, I definitely had the full arcade setup because that was the primary type of interaction I used, especially on PlayStation, was an arcade stick for all the arcade fighters, because I never could figure out how to use the gamepad to do Virtua Fighter or any of that kind of stuff. It was always, or Double Dragon or anything. It was always, I used the arcade controls, right?
And then there were the
I think we're getting
wheels.
I think we're getting off on a tangent though.
Yeah.
But
No, not at all. This is good stuff. I actually loved Double Dragon. Was one of my favorite games growing up. Loved
Double
that
Dragon.
shit.
Double Dragon.
Double Dragon and Golden Axe freaking rule.
Yeah. So we had the sticks, and then we also had the wheels for the racing games, the wheels and the shifter knobs and the brake and
the pedals that never stick
pedals
quite right.
that never stick quite right. The brake and the clutch. Have to have the clutch, brake, clutch, gas, and then the flight sticks.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
I have spent so much money on flight sticks.
Yokes.
Yeah, we've done a collection of.
That's one thing that makes me go, oh my God, I should get into PC gaming, is just playing like flight. I would play Flight Simulator. Like I would just travel all over the world. I would enjoy that so much, but I would need the
Then they've done that.
funny story. We're going to go a little bit off, but we're allowed to do whatever we want because this is our episode. I was watching a video of these guys who were trying to make their own driving simulator with a PC, and they were building it and putting it together. And they said, we want to make it realistic if there's a crash. So they built this little pneumatic piece that would push your gaming chair forward. And the dude went so far, he shot out of it and like broke the computer screen, and he like flew the guy across.
Oh my god!
I saw that video.
It was so funny.
Oh dear.
I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, that's fantastic. It's like some shit we would do, like drinking a few beers. Oh, we'll put this thing back here and throw ourselves out. It's not a big deal.
2020 PSI should be plenty.
Oh my God. So I want to ask this question. This might be a very hard question, and each of you might have different answers, but I'm curious, what has been, or what's the hardest thing been for you? Like in relation to development or animation, what is one of the hardest things to do about this project?
I would say the hardest thing to do with game development is actually to sell it.
Oh god, marketing is so it's
I mean, I've been doing code since 1983 or 4, and I've written code that flies aircraft, and I've written code that routes ambulances, and I've written code that helps doctors get, patient records faster, and I've written code that makes games and all kinds of stuff. And I don't think there's a code problem that can't be solved. But my God, marketing is the hardest nut to crack.
Yeah, no, it's impossible. You can have a really good product, and if you don't literally have a marketing group or some kind of means to actually get that groundswell.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part. It really is one of those things of, like they say on Twitter, having 1,000 really committed people is more important than having
millions of dollars. Yeah.
Millions of dollars, or even actually one of those.
Well, look at New World.
Well,
Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk. New World's the perfect example. They put so much money into New World, and the instant the astroturfing campaign stopped, it dead, just flat dead.
Yeah, it's like those, and oh gosh, the most heartbreaking thing I hear is when someone's like, oh my gosh, this person with like 1 million Twitter followers. A million Twitter followers retweeted me, or this person with a Twitch streamer with 100,000 people on all the time, is playing my game. It doesn't do anything.
Oh my God, yeah, it killed me when that happened to oh shoot, what's that one where you play death?
Oh God,
Death and Taxes.
Death and
Yeah,
Taxes.
Death and Taxes was.
We call that real life.
Yeah, so we need the Death and Taxes folks, right? And the Death and Taxes folks, really great team.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
When they got their game played and positively reviewed by Markiplier, they were so excited. because they were like, "Oh my god, it's going to make it!" Because we just had it played to 2.3 million YouTube video viewers, and he loved it, and it was fantastic, and it made no difference to their sales chart at all. None of them bought it.
Nobody bought it.
It didn't matter
Yeah,
because the overlap between what Markiplier's people are there to see and Death and Taxes was virtually zero.
Yeah.
So then,
We had much better success when Our here actually played GYATM.
Love that game, by the way.
Himself right there played GYATM and doubled the sales on it overnight.
Yes. Yeah.
okay, so then how did you do that when those other people could? What was different?
I think that's what he's saying is like about the overlap. Markiplier or whatever. I've never even heard of the guy. Who his viewers are there to watch AAA games or a certain genre, watch him play certain things.
Okay.
So even if he does bring up an indie game, they're like, okay, we'll watch the video, but we don't really care about that indie game.
Okay.
Whereas people that come to my streams or a lot of the community, the people that are in my community, we're all indie streamers. So when somebody comes to my stream and they see a cool looking game, like, hey, they're probably going to go pick it up, or they're at least going to check into it or wish list it or whatever.
That's on me. I didn't quite follow because I didn't know who that other person was, so I wasn't following.
I love so much that neither of you guys who know one of the biggest YouTubers is. I love that so much.
I don't even think I would recognize a Kardashian. I don't know popular stuff.
Ones with the funny neck things, right? The Kardashians.
They do the Kardashian neck trick. They were on DS9.
I don't know. I'm not. I don't.
Well, like my son's really big into Elden Ring right now, and he's watching this big YouTuber play it, and he watches Minecraft videos with Jacksepticeye and all that stuff. And I'm like, I don't have any interest in that. I want
Septic guy.
Yeah, Septic Eye, I think is what it is.
Yep.
Like poop eye.
Yes,
I think so. Yes.
Exactly.
Septicemia, has a terrible disease in his eye, and honestly, he should go see a doctor for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but he watches all these people, and I've never heard of them. But yeah, they won't. Even if they did play an indie game, it wouldn't translate with their audience.
Okay, so the trick then with indie games is to get it's the target audience, right? That's mainly what makes marketing work. Is it's the bigger. And I think most people do gravitate to AAA games. Most marketing is geared towards AAA games. I mean, you go onto the PlayStation store, you're going to see a lot of AAA games.
Only.
Well, and I think even if it's an indie game, if they had a marketing budget the size of these AAA games, like Elden Ring, for example, I was watching my son play it. I know for a fact I can count on, I can pick out several games right now that are indie games that look just as good, that will play just as good, and be probably more fun, have a better story, and everything. Be an all-around better game. But they just can't reach the gamers. Whereas if they had a multi-million-dollar marketing budget alone, I guarantee you these people would love these games.
Or you're going to have to hide in a basement because the Elden Ring gang is going to come after you for that.
But trust me, hey, if anybody that loves Elden Ring wants a game that's better than Elden Ring, hit me up. I will send you their Twitter handles, and you can see it for yourself. They are going to be great games.
I want to call. I want to call a few people out on that. I want to propose that we do a Twitter challenge and have a couple people try that out.
Yeah.
We should consider doing that.
but to the point that I was making, the hardest part being marketing is
marketing.
Even if you have the kind of budget that, say, EA uses for games, like It Takes Two, right? That little EA gem that won ridiculous indie categories, even though it's an EA game.
Yeah.
Where the marketing budget is a 10-to-1 against the development budget, which is how things work in AAA.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're hitting the wrong people. Right, because even if you take a game like It Takes Two, most people weren't into that game at all.
No.
Right, and the people who were thought it was an indie game that they were supporting.
Yeah.
And then the people who knew that it was a AAA game and were into it were like this tiny minority. They had to buy themselves into leading these game categories. And my favorite comment watching these when it won videos was, "What the hell is this game?"
I haven't finished it, but I loved it. I don't actually know. I have a hard time knowing if a game is an indie. I'm going to be honest with you. If I Google it and it says, okay, this is an indie game, I don't know. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know how to,
Right.
how do you tell as a consumer?
Well, yeah,
It's
and
very
it shouldn't
gray.
matter, right? You shouldn't care as a consumer. You should be
Yeah.
like, this is a great game, and
Yeah.
I enjoy playing it,
Yeah,
right?
that's really all it is. It is about
And that's my point about the hardest part of game development is the marketing, because if you have a fortune behind it and you make New World, you can fall on your face just as easily as if you have no money behind it and you make Valheim.
Or,
Yeah.
I mean, I always shit on Ubisoft. I play their games.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
spent a ton of money on them, but I feel like every other episode, I'm taking a septic eye on Ubisoft. But they got sloppy because of money, and their games have suffered, and it's very microtransaction heavy, and they just get to sit and kind of deliver. I don't know what I'm going to get with them, but indie teams just have a harder time surviving. And I assumed it was maybe budget or team size, but it sounds like it's because of the marketing. The budgets aren't there for the marketing, and consumers, maybe we have the wrong mentality of how we're viewing the industry.
I think that may be true. I mean, let me say, I have 99 problems and money would solve 97 of them.
That's true.
Yeah.
But realistically, even if you were to take a small game and you give it a huge market, like a Deathloop, right?
Yeah.
Small game, good publisher, good game. The people who hate on Deathloop, I mean, they really hate Deathloop, right? And yet, it's doing its best, and it's a solid game. The problem really is with marketing, especially with indie games, because we don't have the money to just spread it like peanut butter on everything. It's finding the gamers who want to play the game that's been made. And I think that there's gamers for every game. There's people who love Perfect World.
Oh yeah.
There's people who love New World. There's people who love Kirby, right? There's somebody for every game. The question is the same problem we had in books, right?
Yeah.
And this is an old problem, because I dealt with this when I was in the music industry, and we dealt with this with the book publishing, and we dealt with this with everything. It's every creative product has a group of people who absolutely will love this product and will click with it. But finding them is the single hardest challenge in the entire modern culture.
Which is why I said having 1,000 really dedicated, true believers is the greatest thing. You have to do grassroots. It makes me think about, what we were talking about with the indie thing. It makes me think about the, was it GTC last year, where a whole bunch of, garage devs came in. They're like, about music. And we were like, okay, how to do music on a budget?
Yes, it was doing the soundtrack for your indie game on a budget.
On a budget
was the name of the presentation. That was at I believe it was GDC in 2020. Okay. And all of us indie devs were in there, and we're all like, yes, this is fantastic, because it costs $250 a minute to get soundtrack work done.
Yeah.
We're all, I'm not kidding. We're all excited about this. This is fantastic. How do we get this done on a budget? And the advice was, fly your team and fly the musicians to a specific cathedral in Prague instead of going all over Europe to these different orchestras. If you fly the orchestras to just one cathedral and you record all day, it's cheaper
with
than
all
if
your
you
friends.
with your friends than if you actually go to 10 or 12 different cathedrals and hire 10 or 12 different orchestras.
Particularly in Paris.
And everyone in the chat was like, "The fuck, what?"
That makes me think of. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to bring Kim K up. She said something stupid like nobody wants to work. You know what, Kim? I should have been smart enough to be born to rich parents that could have loaned me a few millions of dollars.
Right?
Like that sounds as silly as that. What a budget. Let me just buy 40 tickets to fucking Prague.
Yeah.
And for multiple orchestras to all do it the same day. Let me just book out an entire cathedral. I can't even imagine what that costs.
So then
these guys are indie. They are part of the same large indie category. So what I call them is like double A, and these are single A and double A studios, because essentially triple A are like 3 guys. That's it. And then the rest of us
there's like
are
3
fighting.
companies. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 companies. So basically, your garage dev who basically is trying to make their game on their min-wage job versus some group who basically is able to put in 60 million. Well, what's the line that they say? It's millions. It's in the millions.
Well, the money line that I come up with for indie, because people always ask what's indie, and I always go to the chart that's on Statista from, I think the most recent one was 2020, and it has game development budgets by, or game development income by company, right? And there's 3 companies that are in the 20 billion a year plus range.
God dang.
And then by the time you get to 5th place, you're talking like 50 million is your company's entire budget. So it's like the line between like 1st place and 5th place is like the GDP of an entire country.
You know who's in first place? Could we try to guess?
It's Activision Blizzard.
Oh, Blizzard.
Oh, I was actually gonna ask if it was either Tencent or Take-Two, because Rockstar made like that much money on Grand Theft Auto Online.
It was actually Activision Blizzard. It's probably Tencent now because Microsoft bought them, but yeah.
So then okay, I think what I understand, right, is single A, double A, triple A. Project Dark thinks they're going to do a quadruple A, is basically how much money have I spent? I mean, that's the way I look at it. I always
not necessarily quality of product, but how much money have I
spent, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that indie development simply meant an independent studio, right? That self-published their own games, or that had to go source out their publisher. But how should we, as consumers, right? So me and the masses who like to consume games, who maybe don't know everything we need to know, should we be looking at this deeper? Should we look at it and go, well, there's different levels of indie? Because technically Hazelight Studio is considered an indie, but publishing with EA got them huge budgets and huge marketing agreements.
Yep.
Yeah.
So is that really the key, is the publishing aspect? And if you're self-publishing, then you're losing that person's financial support and their ability to help you push the product.
Yeah. I mean, that's the difference between the first page on the Microsoft dashboard and someplace in the ID at Xbox pages.
So that's like the best place to hide a dead body is on page 2 of Google. Nobody goes there. So I kind of get that. So then what can people do? So if people love indies, which, by the way, I'm a firm believer that even some large studios like Naughty Dog keep their indie mentality despite being no longer an independent studio that makes
some are really great studios.
Yeah.
So how do people, right? So consumers, people who like indie games, what are the best ways that they can support the games that they like? What are the best ways that people can get the word out, that can help support these projects?
Honestly, I think, and what I always tell people is, find Twitch streamers and podcasters who review games that you like.
Yeah.
Because it's the streamers and the podcasters that make any of it work.
Yeah. Yes,
so follow Hour a Day Gamer is what I just heard.
I don't stream very much,
but I mean,
you guys doing what you do, nobody even knows the games exist, because there are quite literally over 1,000 new games a month coming out on Steam.
What? Okay. 1,000 new games a month, and how many do the heavy gamers play a year? 20? 25? That's a minuscule fraction.
Possibly 4.
Yeah, I mean, most people play whatever their friends play. They will play the same FIFA or the same Call of Duty because it's what their friends play, and they use it to socialize, which is a great use of a game. So they play maybe 2 games.
Yeah.
I mean, like the guy that does our translations, who's a wonderful dude. I absolutely adore him. He plays 2 games. He only has 2 games. He owns 2 games. And those 2 games are FIFA 19 and FIFA 18.
I always thought I didn't play a lot of games, but I damn sure play a lot more than that. I do kind of play a lot of games. I'm kind of a
He's got
no,
some
Brenda, I'm not
900
coming
hours
to
in
your
it.
baby shower. I'm playing video games. Don't invite me.
Yeah.
Um,
He's got something like 900 hours into this game. But see, that's
fantastic.
what he plays it for. Is he plays FIFA with his friends, and there's nothing at all wrong with that. Nor would I say there is. But if people want to find more weird, rare, awesome games, it's sort of like if you want to find weird music, listen to college radio,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because college radio is always going to have the weird music that you haven't heard. The equivalent to that for video games is find the Twitch podcasters and the Twitch game players and the Glimish ones and the YouTube ones who are reviewing a whole variety of different games, because you're going to find all kinds of stuff and you're going to like some of it.
I mean, I can think of between you, Ready Set Indie, and Steven Galaxy. That's a lot of indies that I'm subject to that I never would. I can't tell you how many games Hour has introduced me to just indies alone
Oh,
in
yeah.
the last year, and indie
Hours of
developers.
Yeah.
So it's connecting with the right. I guess that's probably the best advice you could give anybody in industry. Connect with the person who offers you the content you want to consume.
Exactly. I love Stefan Galaxy. He's weird. He's silly. He does a lot of mobile games. His balloons fetish.
Yeah. Oh my
He
god.
does, yeah.
I love him.
Same
He's
guy.
so cool.
But I tend to actually watch mostly the people who do different games every stream, because then I get to see a whole load of different games, and I really, really love that.
Yeah, Garden of Indie actually is really good.
Garden's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, you go in and basically there's a Garden of Indie does a lot like Ready Set, where it's multiple indie games played
Yeah, every stream.
over the stream. So you actually get a chance to, if you don't like the first game, wait a half an hour to an hour and you'll get to see the next game.
Yeah, and
then
there's
the
a
next
lot to
game,
that.
And the next game. And there is. It's literally
there's-
like getting to go through and getting reviews.
Yeah, and there's so many great people, and we
Yeah.
found a lot of them through our Cygnus Pizza Race tournaments,
Yes.
because all these great indie streamers would then say, "Oh, hey, my buddy's got to get into this tournament."
Yep.
And we'd go watch them, and we're like, "Oh my god, this is such a great streamer!" And we'd watch
Yeah.
them, and then so we have a whole lot of streamers that we watch. I often have like 5 or 7 tabs up,
Yeah.
and I'm watching everybody because there's
Yeah.
so much stuff. I don't want to miss any of it.
Now,
So-
I had to say, you guys making that mini game, the
Cygnus Pizza Race.
Cygnus Pizza Race,
Yep.
for anybody who doesn't know, right? So what LongPlay did is they took a mini game, a racing game that's kind of centered on the world building, right? In the idea of Smugglers of Cygnus, and did a
Yep.
tournament and brought all these indie folks in and had some
Yep.
really cool opportunities and prizes. That was
Yeah.
fucking brilliant.
Well, thank
It
you.
was awesome.
That
was a-
was
It was fun.
I could literally spend my whole life making racing games. I love racing games.
Yeah.
Hour. Why don't you take a little bit of time for anybody who didn't watch the episode that we did last, where we kind of recapped our
Mhm.
favorite indies, and talk about? Can you actually still get the pizza race game?
Yeah.
Is that game still
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
So if people can still get it, why don't you take a minute to talk about it to maybe encourage folks to try it?
It's just a classic arcade style racer. It's pure racing ability. There's no like blue shells that's going to come up and kick you in the ass, whenever you're in first place. But it's just so cool because it's pure arcade racing. That reminds me of games that I played, back on like PlayStation 2, just pure racing. And so basically the story is there's this pizza federation, correct me if I'm wrong, LongPlay and Jess, and these drivers, that's like a coveted job, is to be able to get hired by this company to deliver pizzas galactically. You drive pizzas all over the galaxy. So they create this tournament every year, and the winner of the tournament, this is talking in game, not real life, obviously. So you're in the game, the winner of this tournament they get a job, they get a contract with this pizza company that delivers pizzas. And it's just the coveted job that everybody wants to win. You'll pull out all the stops to win the tournament. So yeah, they developed a tournament around this for everybody, and they did monthly tournaments this year for all the indie players or anybody that wanted to play. It's on Steam. You can go pick it up. It's $3.99, I believe. I always say on Twitter and everything, it's less than the cost of your lunch. I mean, people go to McDonald's or wherever for lunch, and they'll spend 15, however much. for $3.99, you can get a game that will lock you in for hours. There's 20 tracks, and they're all unique and different, and they're all fun in their own way. And you know, it's just a really cool game, and it built this community of what, probably close to 30 people that were really active in the chat. We had a group chat going on Twitter. You know, we were in the forums, the LongPlay forums, and we were always discussing it and posting screenshots and times and, you know, trash talking and everything. So it's a really close knit group of people now that are all centered around Cygnus Pizza Race. And of course, that's a mini game within Smugglers of Cygnus. So it's really, really cool how they did that. And like Jess was saying about, you know, having 1,000 really dedicated people is better than, you know, having millions of viewers or something like that. Right now we have a really tight knit group of, you know, probably 20 or 30 people that just freaking love this game and want to be a part of it. So they've done a great job at, you know, getting, like Jess said, some grassroots going. And I definitely just go check out this game. It's a lot of fun, and stay tuned for Smugglers of Cygnus. Gosh, it's going to be awesome.
So before I ask another question about Smugglers of Cygnus, I have to say, in COVID times, I understand things may have been harder for developers. We've seen some broken shit. I'm just going to call it what it is, right? So I can understand the risk concerns for a $60 or $70 game, especially right if you're paying in pounds or in euros and or Canadian dollars, and it costs more money. 20 tracks for $4, you can't lose. You absolutely can't lose. Like it's a no-brainer to me.
Like I said, if you're worried about how much the game cost, you know, $3.99, just don't order that extra 6-piece chicken nugget with your lunch. Do without that 6-piece chicken nugget. Just have
Make
your
your
value
coffee
meal.
at home. Make your
coffee at home, and there you go.
For
You
one
got
day.
your $3.99 to come buy the game
for one day.
So you can even actually play some of them for free.
Yes, there's a demo that has the first 3 tracks from season 1 and season 2. So
yeah. Yep,
so then
demos.
let's ask the really important question. Is there a rough idea of when Smugglers of Cygnus will hit the market and ready for folks to play it?
Oh, absolutely. That should be coming out at the very beginning of 2023.
Oh.
And the alpha is available right now. It's an early access alpha demo, which means that it'll always be free. So the demo is going to be perpetually free. And the demo, compared to the regular game, it's on the exact same code base. It's not one of those demos that's like a, you know, oh, here's a demo that shows you about my game, but it's really nothing like the actual game because it's different. The demo is literally the actual game, except you're restricted to the starter solar system.
Yep. So you'll get to basically do the you won't be able to jump out of that particular solar system. That's, you know,
that's the only limitation.
And the game updates as he puts out patches. So like if there's a bug, or you know, or he's been implementing the gamepad UI, as all that stuff gets put in, he updates it. So like this week, you know, like 2 weeks ago or whatever, your gamepad wouldn't have worked. Well, now it's been updated. Your gamepad should work, or I think he's pretty well got that. So yeah, as the game progresses and as he's working on it, the alpha demo is getting updated for free. You can check it out for free, and it's the actual game, how it's going to be when the full game comes out. It's because like you get to see the work in progress all the time.
Where can we get that? So for anybody who's watching or listening that wants to experience that, where can they get that alpha demo?
Okay, so the early access alpha is available on itch. And it's just at longplaygames.itch.io, and you'll see it right there on the page. And the EA and the game are separate. So the EA is showing up as its own demo, so it'll always be it's early access.
I always get confused.
So it'll always be always be free. The early access will be available forever, and it will always be free. It will eventually not be alpha, which would be nice, but it will always be free. And then there's the full game that'll be available there as soon as the binaries are available for it. That way people don't have any confusion that, hey, I paid into a game, I don't know if it's finished or whatever. There's no cost for the early access. Not like a Steam type. That's why we avoided Steam for that.
Gotcha. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that we have plenty of links to put. So on Anchor, we'll put those on Anchor, and then we'll put them in the
Great,
pinned
thank
post on YouTube. That way, everybody who wants to check it out can go to one of those places, and you'll be able to quickly access the links. So that we'll have lots of information that's there.
Fantastic! Yeah.
Thank you very
So
much.
we'll have the Steam, the Twitter, the website. We'll have the link tree for Hour. We'll have the alpha demo. So we'll make sure that you guys have plenty of links and information. Where can folks want to connect with you guys on Twitter and kind of keep up with everything that's indie related and everything that's happening with Smugglers of Cygnus? Where can folks follow LongPlay Games? Where can we find you on Twitter?
So on Twitter, it's just longplay_games. As most people have found us through Twitter, so we use that one as our primary point.
Look for the red arcade console. That's how you know that you got the real LongPlay Games.
And then we also have a forum and a chat server. And the links to the forum and the chat server are always with the demo, and they're with the trailer and everything else as well. And then the chat server, it's not like a Discord. You don't have to have an invitation. Nope. Anybody can just drop by and take a look, decide even if they even want to join the chat. They can watch the chat without having to join it. There's no requirement like Discord where you have to your name shows up. Hey, this person has joined the chat or whatever, and everybody's like, oh, hey, there's a new person. Hi. You want to just lurk? You can lurk because it's public. And then of course the forum is also public, and you can just lurk and see what's up, and if you like it or not.
Participate too. We have a fanfic participation, so you can actually at this stage. A person can actually work on that and
yes, actually, let's talk about some of the cool stuff we're doing on the Patreon for a moment, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, let's do it.
So on our Patreon, which we really appreciate because it's literally helping us cover groceries, so that's fantastic.
Yeah. Even $1, man. Even $1.
We've said that anybody who subscribes to the Patreon at $1 or higher gets to provide feedback into the game that we'll seriously consider implementing. Yeah,
it's like for reals.
The feedback does matter. We listen to it all the time, and we actually solicit feedback regularly.
Yes.
Yep. Yesterday's feedback was we posted, what if you were a starship captain, what would you do with your tablet? And so far, Hour has come up with some ideas for things he would do with his tablet, which is part of our UI, our user interface for the game.
Yep.
Is you basically control, you browse through your jobs and whatever on a tablet. And we'll have some other things to do there as well, since Hour had some great ideas.
Yay!
And one of the things that we do on the Patreon is the book for the game that is being written right now is called Final Lap, and it's the Nikoi Vol story. And she's a Mastellan who wants to be a Cygnus race champion.
Space otters!
So you're writing a fictional book that is incorporated with the world and the lore of Smugglers of Cygnus.
Yeah, because Smugglers of Cygnus, Cygnus Galaxy is in my head. That's where it is. So if somebody takes off my head,
there you go.
There
it goes.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
So the book, all the chapters of the book are available on the Patreon.
Yeah,
including the podcast where we actually have Jess reads each chapter.
Yeah,
and then I produce it and remove the noise and whatever, and I post it
for our audiobook people because we know that a lot of people don't have time to sit down and read. So they can go ahead and, during your commute, during your lunchtime, it's 20 minutes and you get to listen to the author reading the chapter by chapter monthly thing.
And people get to contribute things that they would like to see. We ask questions, what characters would they like to see more of? Where would they like to see the story go? So they get to provide feedback directly into the story as well.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yep.
That is super exciting. We're going to make sure that gets linked too. Because that is totally awesome. Hour, where can folks find you?
Hour a Day Gamer is everywhere that he exists. And whatever platform I happen to be on, if I'm on that platform, it's Hour a Day Gamer. Whether it's Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram. I haven't jumped on the TikTok bandwagon, but maybe eventually someday down the road, I don't know. But if it's available, it'll be Hour a Day Gamer.
Well, I know you have a link. I know you have a link tree that has 40 million different places. So we'll make sure that gets linked too. So before we wrap up, man, that hour and a half went by fast. Before we wrap up, is there anything that we didn't mention that needs to be mentioned, or is there anything that you guys think that we missed?
I think the one thing that I really want to emphasize, especially with Smugglers, is because it's an early access alpha. If people want to see something in the game, now is the time to ask.
Yep.
Now is the time to come on, back it for $1, and say, I want to see this. Because that is the only chance that's going to happen to influence the game, is when it's currently in the process of being developed. Don't come out in 2023 when it's done and say, well, if only they had done this, I'd buy it. If you have an if only they had done this, tell us now, because we might be able to accommodate it.
Yeah.
But in a year, it ain't happening.
Nope.
Okay, so basically, go get the alpha demo. Consider the very hefty $3.99 sacrifice of your soy triple frappe macchiato, right? And then if you're enjoying the alpha demo, jump on the Patreon, throw a couple bucks in, and make some suggestions of
Yep.
what you'd like to see added in the game, and listen to Jess read some of the story.
Yeah. Well, me reading's a little bit more. It's kind of more slightly premiumer. But yeah, no, your voice matters. Voting for $4.
Premiumer. That is, we're coining that, premiumer. This is a premiumer service.
It's a little more premiumer.
It's premiumer. This one's good, sir. It's the premiere, but this is premiumer.
Hashtag take that, Webster.
There you go. Premiumer.
Apple got away with funner, so I guess it'll all work.
Funner. Yeah, funner.
Funner is not a real word. It's not a real word.
We if we make it up, it is. I mean, for God's sakes, the Oxford Dictionary put bootylicious in there, so we can make up whatever we want at this point.
Premiumer 2025 OEG. Let's do
it. Wonderful. Well, thanks for the fantastic episode, Miguel and Jess. An hour. Thanks so much for coming on. So yeah, everybody check out the links if you want to find all the fun stuff we've been talking about and more. What's up, Hour?
I was just say, like, I don't know if, I spent a lot of the show listening to LongPlay and Jess talk about the game and everything. But, like, I don't know if people can hear the excitement in my voice when I talk about this game, but this game is freaking awesome, and people need to be checking this game out. I cannot stress that enough. I can't reiterate it enough. And if anybody wants to hit me up on Twitter and talk about it, I will bend your ear all day long on Twitter about it. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
I am going to say,
thank you.
Thanks for having fun.
For three people, I didn't. Yeah. It's like I didn't expect it to look so good. Like when I was looking at it, I'm like, how did 3 people make all this concept art that looks so good, and like make these worlds look so good, and like the designs are so cool. It's insane to me. How the hell does 3 people do that? But that's what.
I was about to say, what's really exciting, that third person is our Linux guy. So we are very focused on making sure that Linux is not left out in the dark. So yeah, so that's our thing. We have the third guy basically is doing most of the Linux testing and is actually making some really great stuff in Blender. Yep. So we're very excited,
Awesome.
Going our way.
Awesome. Well, check out, alpha demo, consider the pizza race, y'all. And in 2023, let's look for Smugglers of Cygnus. I couldn't say that 3 times fast. Can you? Smugglers of Nope. Smugglers of Cygnus, Smugglers of Cygnus, Smugglers of Cygnus. Nope, I fucked it up. Oh well. All right, well, everybody, thanks so much for watching, and thanks again to Miguel and Jess and Hour for being on the show. And we will see everybody soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.